Imagine you're walking home alone at night. The street is silent. A cold wind moves through the empty road. Then you hear footsteps behind you. Your heart begins pounding. Your breathing becomes shallow. Every muscle in your body tightens. Without thinking, you turn around, only to discover there is no one there. Nothing happened, no danger, no attack, yet your body reacted as if your life was at stake. Why? Because your brain doesn't wait for certainty, it prepares for survival. Long before your conscious mind has time to think, your brain has already decided whether you're safe or not. And here's the surprising part. Most of the fears you experience every day never come from the outside world. They are created inside your own mind. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, fear of losing someone, fear of not being enough. These invisible fears shape your decisions more than logic ever does. They stop you from chasing opportunities. They silence your voice. They keep you trapped inside a version of yourself that never reaches its full potential. But what if I told you fear isn't your enemy? It's one of the greatest inventions your brain has ever created. Without fear, your ancestors would never have survived. Without fear, human civilization might not even exist. The problem isn't that your brain creates fear. The problem is your ancient brain still lives inside a modern world. It reacts to emails like predators, to public speaking like standing on the edge of a cliff, to criticism as if it were physical danger. Your brain is running software designed for a world that disappeared thousands of years ago. And until you understand how that software works, it will continue running your life without your permission. Today, we're going on a journey inside one of the most fascinating machines ever created. Not a supercomputer, not an artificial intelligence, but the 3-pound universe inside your own skull. You'll discover why fear feels real even when nothing is happening, why anxiety can exhaust you without a single physical threat, why traumatic memories never seem to disappear, and most importantly, how understanding your brain gives you the power to stop fear from controlling your future. Because once you understand the machinery, you stop becoming its prisoner, you become its master. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Why your brain invented fear. Before we can overcome fear, we have to understand why it exists. Imagine living 50,000 years ago. There were no cities, no hospitals, no police, no locked doors. Every day was unpredictable. One wrong decision could mean death. A rustle in the bushes could be the wind, or it could be a hungry predator. If your brain assumed it was only the wind, you might never live long enough to make that mistake again. But if your brain assumed danger, even when there wasn't any, you survived. Over thousands of generations, nature rewarded the brain that overreacted, not the brain that waited for proof. This simple survival strategy became permanently wired into human biology. Your brain evolved to keep you alive, not to make you happy. This changes everything, because many people believe something is wrong with them when they feel anxious. Nothing is wrong. Your brain is simply doing exactly what evolution designed it to do. It constantly asks one question: am I safe? Not. Am I successful? Not. Am I confident? Not. Am I fulfilled? Safety comes first. Always. Everything else comes later. This is why fear is incredibly fast. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't consult logic. It doesn't wait for evidence. It acts. Think about touching a hot stove. You don't consciously decide to pull your hand away. Your nervous system reacts before your conscious mind even understands what happened. Fear works the same way. It's automatic, instant, protective. But here's where modern life becomes complicated. Thousands of years ago, most dangers disappeared after a few minutes. The lion either caught you or it didn't. The storm either passed or it didn't. Fear had an ending. Today, many of our threats never end. Bills, deadlines, social media, job interviews, relationships, the future. Your brain treats uncertainty as potential danger. and uncertainty has become one of the biggest parts of modern life. Imagine receiving an email from your boss saying, "We need to talk tomorrow." Immediately, your imagination begins writing stories. Maybe I'm getting fired. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe they don't like me anymore. Notice something fascinating. Nothing has happened. The conversation hasn't even taken place, yet your heart races. Your stomach tightens. You struggle to sleep. Your body reacts to an imaginary future, as though it's already real. That's because your brain cannot always distinguish between a vividly imagined threat and an actual one. The same brain regions activate. The same stress hormones are released. The same physical sensations appear. In many ways, the brain believes the stories you repeatedly tell it. This is why fear grows stronger the more attention you give it. Every time you replay a terrifying possibility, your brain says, "This thought keeps returning. It must be important. I should prepare for it." And so, the fear becomes even stronger. Not because reality changed, because repetition convinced your brain that the danger was real. This explains why two people can experience the exact same situation yet respond completely differently. One person walks onto a stage with excitement. Another walks onto the same stage feeling overwhelming panic. The stage didn't create the fear. Their brains interpreted it differently. This is one of the greatest discoveries in neuroscience. Events don't create emotions. Interpretations do. The world outside you matters, but the world inside your mind matters even more. Your brain isn't showing you reality. It's showing you its prediction of reality. And sometimes those predictions are wrong. Understanding this changes your relationship with fear forever. Because instead of asking, "Why am I so afraid?" you begin asking, "What story is my brain trying to protect me from?" That question changes everything. Because once you become curious about fear, instead of controlled by it, you've already taken the first step toward freedom. And in the next chapter, we'll meet the tiny almond-shaped structure inside your brain, no bigger than your thumb, yet powerful enough to control your heartbeat, your breathing, your memories, and nearly every fearful decision you've ever made. Meet the amygdala, the ancient guardian that has spent your entire life trying to keep you alive, even when it doesn't know the difference between danger and discomfort. Chapter 2. The amygdala, your brain's ancient alarm system. If fear had a headquarters, it would be hidden deep inside your brain. Not in the logical part that solves math problems, not in the creative part that imagines the future, but in a tiny structure no larger than an almond. Scientists call it the amygdala. It may be small, but don't let its size fool you. For millions of years, this tiny cluster of neurons has acted as humanity's personal bodyguard. Every second of every day, even while you're sleeping, it scans your environment for danger. Not every minute, not every second, every fraction of a second. Its job is beautifully simple: protect you, no matter what. The amygdala doesn't care whether you're trying to give an important presentation, ask someone out on a date, or simply enjoy a quiet evening. It asks only one question: could this hurt us? If the answer is even, maybe, it immediately sounds the alarm, long before your conscious mind understands what's happening. Imagine you're driving down a highway. Suddenly, a car swerves into your lane. Before you even realize what's happening, your hands jerk the steering wheel, your foot slams the brakes, your heart explodes into motion. Only afterward do you think, that was close. Notice the order. Your body reacted first, your thoughts came later. That's the amygdala doing exactly what it evolved to do. It never waits for permission, because waiting once meant dying, and evolution doesn't reward hesitation. Faster than thought. Here's something astonishing. The signal from your eyes reaches your amygdala before it reaches the thinking part of your brain. Think about that for a moment. Your brain is literally designed to feel fear before it understands why. Scientists sometimes call this the low road, a shortcut built for survival. Picture walking through the woods. You notice something long and dark on the ground. Instantly, you jump backward. Your heart races. Adrenaline floods your body. A second later, you realize it's only a stick. Your logical brain laughs, but your amygdala doesn't apologize, because from its perspective, it just saved your life. If it treated every snake like a stick, your ancestors wouldn't have survived long enough to become your ancestors. So your brain evolved with a simple philosophy: better safe than sorry. That strategy worked brilliantly for prehistoric humans. But today, it creates an unexpected problem: modern monsters. Most of the dangers we face today can't bite us. They don't have claws. They don't hide in the bushes. Instead, they arrive as emails, notifications, unexpected phone calls, job interviews, public speaking, social rejection, financial uncertainty. Your ancient alarm system doesn't fully understand these differences. To your amygdala, standing in front of 500 strangers feels remarkably similar to standing in front of a hungry predator. Logically, you know nobody intends to harm you. Emotionally, your body prepares for battle anyway. Your palms sweat, your mouth becomes dry, your heart pounds against your ribs, your muscles tighten, your breathing speeds up, your stomach twists into knots, all because your ancient brain whispers, "Something dangerous is happening," and your body obeys. When the alarm won't turn off, imagine living in a house with the world's most sensitive smoke detector. It doesn't only react to fire, it reacts to steam from your shower, burning toast, a candle, even sunlight hitting the sensor. Day after day, the alarm keeps screaming. Eventually, you stop feeling safe inside your own home. This is what chronic anxiety often feels like. The alarm system isn't broken. It's simply too sensitive. Every uncertain situation becomes a possible catastrophe. Every mistake becomes a disaster. Every awkward conversation becomes evidence of rejection. The amygdala begins seeing danger where none exists, not because it's malicious, because it's trying too hard to protect you. Ironically, the very system designed to keep you alive can sometimes prevent you from truly living. Why fear feels physical? Many people ask, if fear is just in my mind, why does it feel so real? Because fear doesn't stay in your mind. The moment your amygdala detects danger, it calls your body's emergency services. Within seconds, stress hormones surge through your bloodstream. Adrenaline prepares your muscles for action. Your pupils widen. Your hearing sharpens. Blood leaves your digestive system and rushes toward your arms and legs. Your heart beats faster, not because something is wrong, but because your brain expects you to run. This reaction is called the fight or flight response. It's one of the greatest survival systems ever created. For thousands of years, it helped humans escape predators, survive disasters, and protect their families. But today, that same survival response activates while reading negative comments online or waiting for someone to text back. Your body doesn't know the difference. It only knows the alarm has sounded. Fear loves uncertainty. Here's another fascinating truth. The amygdala hates uncertainty. More than pain, more than failure, it wants predictability. Because predictable environments are easier to survive. This explains something many people never understand about themselves. Sometimes we stay in unhealthy relationships, not because they're happy, but because they're familiar. We stay in jobs we dislike because they're predictable. We repeat destructive habits because uncertainty feels more frightening than discomfort. Your brain often chooses a familiar pain over an unfamiliar opportunity, not because it's lazy, because uncertainty triggers the alarm. And growth always begins with uncertainty. Every dream you've ever wanted lives just beyond the edge of what feels comfortable. Can you trust every fear? Here's the question that changes everything. Should you trust every fear your brain creates? The answer is no. Fear is information, not instruction. It tells you something feels threatening. It doesn't necessarily mean something is actually dangerous. Imagine a weather forecast predicting rain. You wouldn't assume the forecast controls the weather. It's simply making a prediction. Your amygdala works the same way. It predicts danger. Sometimes it's brilliantly accurate. Sometimes it's completely wrong. The problem begins when we confuse prediction with reality. The moment you believe every fearful thought, you hand your life over to your brain's oldest survival software. But when you pause, take a breath and ask, is this a real danger or just an old alarm? Something remarkable happens. The thinking part of your brain begins coming back online. Logic returns, perspective returns, choice returns, because that's the one thing your amygdala cannot do. It can prepare you for survival, but only you can decide whether fear deserves the driver's seat. In the next chapter, we'll explore one of the brain's greatest illusions, why it constantly imagines disasters that never happen, why your mind rehearses conversations that don't exist, and why nearly every terrifying scenario you replay never becomes reality. You'll discover how the brain creates imaginary threats and why believing those stories may be the biggest source of suffering in modern life. Chapter 2. The amygdala, your brain's ancient alarm system. If fear had a headquarters, it would be hidden deep inside your brain. Not in the logical part that solves math problems, not in the creative part that imagines the future, but in a tiny structure no larger than an almond. Scientists call it the amygdala. It may be small, but don't let its size fool you. For millions of years, this tiny cluster of neurons has acted as humanity's personal bodyguard. Every second of every day, even while you're sleeping, it scans your environment for danger. Not every minute, not every second, every fraction of a second. Its job is beautifully simple: protect you, no matter what. The amygdala doesn't care whether you're trying to give an important presentation, ask someone out on a date, or simply enjoy a quiet evening. It asks only one question: could this hurt us? If the answer is even, maybe, it immediately sounds the alarm, long before your conscious mind understands what's happening. Imagine you're driving down a highway. Suddenly, a car swerves into your lane. Before you even realize what's happening, your hands jerk the steering wheel, your foot slams the brakes, your heart explodes into motion. Only afterward do you think, that was close. Notice the order. Your body reacted first, your thoughts came later. That's the amygdala doing exactly what it evolved to do. It never waits for permission, because waiting once meant dying, and evolution doesn't reward hesitation. Faster than thought. Here's something astonishing. The signal from your eyes reaches your amygdala before it reaches the thinking part of your brain. Think about that for a moment. Your brain is literally designed to feel fear before it understands why. Scientists sometimes call this the low road, a shortcut built for survival. Picture walking through the woods. You notice something long and dark on the ground. Instantly, you jump backward. Your heart races. Adrenaline floods your body. A second later, you realize it's only a stick. Your logical brain laughs, but your amygdala doesn't apologize, because from its perspective, it just saved your life. If it treated every snake like a stick, your ancestors wouldn't have survived long enough to become your ancestors. So your brain evolved with a simple philosophy: better safe than sorry. That strategy worked brilliantly for prehistoric humans. But today, it creates an unexpected problem: modern monsters. Most of the dangers we face today can't bite us. They don't have claws. They don't hide in the bushes. Instead, they arrive as emails, notifications, unexpected phone calls, job interviews, public speaking, social rejection, financial uncertainty. Your ancient alarm system doesn't fully understand these differences. To your amygdala, standing in front of 500 strangers feels remarkably similar to standing in front of a hungry predator. Logically, you know nobody intends to harm you. Emotionally, your body prepares for battle anyway. Your palms sweat, your mouth becomes dry, your heart pounds against your ribs, your muscles tighten, your breathing speeds up, your stomach twists into knots, all because your ancient brain whispers, "Something dangerous is happening," and your body obeys. When the alarm won't turn off, imagine living in a house with the world's most sensitive smoke detector. It doesn't only react to fire, it reacts to steam from your shower, burning toast, a candle, even sunlight hitting the sensor. Day after day, the alarm keeps screaming. Eventually, you stop feeling safe inside your own home. This is what chronic anxiety often feels like. The alarm system isn't broken. It's simply too sensitive. Every uncertain situation becomes a possible catastrophe. Every mistake becomes a disaster. Every awkward conversation becomes evidence of rejection. The amygdala begins seeing danger where none exists, not because it's malicious, because it's trying too hard to protect you. Ironically, the very system designed to keep you alive can sometimes prevent you from truly living. Why fear feels physical? Many people ask, if fear is just in my mind, why does it feel so real? Because fear doesn't stay in your mind. The moment your amygdala detects danger, it calls your body's emergency services. Within seconds, stress hormones surge through your bloodstream. Adrenaline prepares your muscles for action. Your pupils widen. Your hearing sharpens. Blood leaves your digestive system and rushes toward your arms and legs. Your heart beats faster, not because something is wrong, but because your brain expects you to run. This reaction is called the fight or flight response. It's one of the greatest survival systems ever created. For thousands of years, it helped humans escape predators, survive disasters, and protect their families. But today, that same survival response activates while reading negative comments online or waiting for someone to text back. Your body doesn't know the difference. It only knows the alarm has sounded. Fear loves uncertainty. Here's another fascinating truth. The amygdala hates uncertainty. More than pain, more than failure, it wants predictability. Because predictable environments are easier to survive. This explains something many people never understand about themselves. Sometimes we stay in unhealthy relationships, not because they're happy, but because they're familiar. We stay in jobs we dislike because they're predictable. We repeat destructive habits because uncertainty feels more frightening than discomfort. Your brain often chooses a familiar pain over an unfamiliar opportunity, not because it's lazy, because uncertainty triggers the alarm. And growth always begins with uncertainty. Every dream you've ever wanted lives just beyond the edge of what feels comfortable. Can you trust every fear? Here's the question that changes everything. Should you trust every fear your brain creates? The answer is no. Fear is information, not instruction. It tells you something feels threatening. It doesn't necessarily mean something is actually dangerous. Imagine a weather forecast predicting rain. You wouldn't assume the forecast controls the weather. It's simply making a prediction. Your amygdala works the same way. It predicts danger. Sometimes it's brilliantly accurate. Sometimes it's completely wrong. The problem begins when we confuse prediction with reality. The moment you believe every fearful thought, you hand your life over to your brain's oldest survival software. But when you pause, take a breath and ask, is this a real danger or just an old alarm? Something remarkable happens. The thinking part of your brain begins coming back online. Logic returns, perspective returns, choice returns, because that's the one thing your amygdala cannot do. It can prepare you for survival, but only you can decide whether fear deserves the driver's seat. In the next chapter, we'll explore one of the brain's greatest illusions, why it constantly imagines disasters that never happen, why your mind rehearses conversations that don't exist, and why nearly every terrifying scenario you replay never becomes reality. You'll discover how the brain creates imaginary threats and why believing those stories may be the biggest source of suffering in modern life. Chapter 4. The Fear Loop. Why your brain keeps you stuck. Imagine standing at the edge of a swimming pool. You've never learned to swim. You look at the water and your heart starts racing. Your mind immediately says, "Don't jump. You'll drown." So you step back. Instantly, you feel relief. The fear disappears. Your breathing slows. Your muscles relax. You tell yourself, "Good thing I didn't do it." It feels like you've protected yourself, but something invisible has just happened inside your brain. Something that will make the fear even stronger the next time you stand near that pool. Welcome to the fear loop. One of the most powerful and misunderstood systems in the human brain. Fear doesn't grow because you face it. It grows because you avoid it. This seems completely backward. Most of us believe avoiding fear will make us feel better. And in the short term, it does. That's exactly why the brain keeps repeating the pattern. Imagine someone terrified of elevators. The first time they avoid one, their anxiety immediately drops. The brain notices, "Interesting, avoiding elevators made us feel safe." The next time they see an elevator, the fear arrives even faster. Eventually, they stop entering elevators altogether. Not because elevators became more dangerous, because avoidance taught the brain that elevators must be dangerous. Every escape strengthens the alarm. Every avoidance becomes evidence. The fear isn't surviving because it's true. It's surviving because it's never challenged. The brain loves patterns. Your brain is an efficiency machine. It wants to automate everything. Think about driving a car. At first, every movement requires attention. Where's the brake? Where's the mirror? How hard should I turn? Months later, you barely think about it. The behavior became automatic. Fear works the same way. The more often you react the same way, the stronger the neural pathway becomes. At first, avoiding something feels like a decision. Eventually, it becomes a habit, and habits become identity. You stop saying, "I'm afraid of public speaking." You begin saying, "I'm just not the kind of person who speaks in public." The fear has become part of who you think you are. The invisible prison. Picture someone standing inside a prison. But here's the strange part. The prison has no locked doors, no guards, no walls, only invisible boundaries created by fear. I can't start my business. I could never travel alone. I'm too shy. I'm too old. I'm not smart enough. I'm not confident enough. Notice something. Most of these aren't facts. They're conclusions. Stories repeated so many times, they began to sound like truth. Every time the story is repeated, the brain strengthens it. Eventually, it stops asking whether it's true. It simply accepts it. The comfort zone isn't comfortable. People often talk about the comfort zone as if it's a place of happiness, but that's rarely true. Many people are miserable inside their comfort zone. They're simply familiar there. Your brain often prefers familiar discomfort over unfamiliar possibility. Think about that. Someone may stay in a toxic relationship not because they're happy, but because uncertainty feels even scarier. Someone may stay in a job they hate because starting over feels unpredictable. Someone may never chase their dream because failure seems unbearable. Fear convinces them they're making the safe choice. But sometimes, the greatest risk is never risking anything at all. The loop begins small. Fear rarely takes over your life overnight. It starts with tiny decisions. You don't raise your hand in class. You skip one social event. You avoid one difficult conversation. You postpone one opportunity. Each decision feels insignificant, but the brain keeps score. It quietly records every escape, every retreat, every moment you chose comfort over courage. Months become years. Years become decades. Without realizing it, you've built a life around avoiding discomfort, not around pursuing possibility. Why courage feels so uncomfortable? Here's something that surprises many people. The goal isn't to eliminate fear. That's impossible. Fear is part of being human. The goal is to teach your brain that fear doesn't always mean danger. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle. The first attempt is terrifying. You wobble, you fall, your brain screams, "Stop doing this!" But something remarkable happens. Each successful attempt sends a new message. We survived. Maybe this isn't as dangerous as we thought. Little by little, the alarm grows quieter. Not because someone convinced your brain with words, because experience rewrote the prediction. Your brain trusts evidence more than reassurance. Tiny acts of courage. Many people wait until they feel confident before taking action. But confidence almost never comes first. Action does. Imagine someone afraid of speaking to strangers. If they wait until fear disappears, they may wait forever. But if they smile at one stranger today, ask one question tomorrow, start one conversation next week, their brain begins collecting new evidence. Interesting. Nothing bad happened. Maybe we were wrong. Every tiny act of courage weakens the fear loop. Every avoided opportunity strengthens it. Your future isn't shaped by one heroic decision. It's shaped by hundreds of tiny choices. The brain learns through survival. Your brain has one simple rule. If you survived something, it's probably safe enough to survive again. This is why exposure works. Not because it magically removes fear, but because it gives your brain new data. Imagine climbing a mountain. The first step feels impossible. By the 100th step, your body adapts. The mountain hasn't changed. You have. Fear works exactly the same way. The more often you face what scares you, the less mysterious it becomes. And mystery is one of fear's favorite weapons, the hidden cost of safety. Ask yourself this question: what has fear already cost you? Not money, not possessions, experiences, friendships, dreams, conversations, adventures, versions of yourself that never had the chance to exist. Fear rarely destroys your life dramatically. Instead, it steals it quietly, one missed opportunity at a time, one postponed dream at a time, one silent moment when you had something beautiful to say but said nothing. Years later, many people don't regret their failures. They regret the moments fear made the decision for them, breaking the loop. So, how do you escape? Not with giant leaps, not with motivational speeches, not by pretending you aren't afraid. You escape one brave decision at a time, small enough that your brain doesn't panic, large enough that your world begins to expand. Every time you choose courage, you send your brain a powerful message. We survived. We can do difficult things. fear was only a prediction. Eventually, those predictions begin to change, and one day you'll find yourself doing something that once felt impossible, not because fear disappeared, but because you stopped obeying it. Transition to Chapter 5. Now we've uncovered one of the brain's greatest traps, but another mystery remains. If fear is only a prediction, why does anxiety sometimes last for days or even months? Why can your body remain exhausted even when there's no immediate danger? In the next chapter, we'll journey deeper into the chemistry of the brain. You'll discover how stress hormones reshape your thoughts, why anxiety becomes addictive, and how your own nervous system can unknowingly keep you trapped in a state of constant alertness. Because understanding fear is only the beginning. Understanding anxiety changes everything. Chapter 5. Anxiety. When fear never leaves. Imagine waking up in the morning, nothing bad has happened. No emergency, no bad news, no immediate danger. And yet, your chest already feels tight. Your breathing is shallow. Your mind is racing. You haven't even left your bed, but your body feels like it's preparing for a battle. Why? Because anxiety is different from fear. Fear has a target. Anxiety has a shadow. Fear says, there's danger in front of you. Anxiety whispers, there might be danger somewhere. One is tied to the present, the other lives in the future. And the human brain is remarkably good at imagining futures that never arrive, living in tomorrow. Think about how often your mind leaves the present moment. You're eating dinner, but you're thinking about tomorrow's meeting. You're driving home, but replaying yesterday's conversation. You're lying in bed, imagining everything that could go wrong next week. Your body remains here, but your mind lives somewhere else. This is where anxiety grows. It doesn't need reality. It only needs possibility. The brain begins asking endless questions. What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if something happens to the people I love? What if I'm not enough? The questions never end, because uncertainty has no finish line. Every answer creates another what if. The chemistry of survival. Inside your body, a remarkable chemical orchestra begins to play. The moment your brain senses danger, whether real or imagined, it releases stress hormones. The most famous of these is cortisol. Think of cortisol as your body's emergency fuel. In small amounts, it's incredibly useful. It wakes you up, sharpens your attention, helps you respond quickly. Without it, human beings wouldn't survive. But emergencies were never supposed to last forever. Your ancestors faced danger, escaped it, then returned to safety. Their bodies calmed down. The stress response ended. Today, many people never truly leave survival mode. The danger exists only inside their thoughts, but the body responds as if it's happening every hour, day after day, week after week, year after year. Eventually, the body begins paying the price. Sleep becomes difficult, concentration fades, muscles stay tense, energy disappears. Even small problems begin feeling overwhelming, not because you're weak, because your nervous system has been working overtime. When the alarm becomes normal, here's something both fascinating and frightening. The brain adapts to whatever it experiences most. Imagine living next to a train station. At first, every passing train wakes you. Weeks later, you barely notice the noise. Your brain adapted. The same thing can happen with anxiety. If your nervous system stays activated long enough, high stress begins to feel normal. You forget what calm even feels like. Rest starts feeling strange. Silence becomes uncomfortable. Some people become so accustomed to worry that peace actually makes them anxious. Without realizing it, their brain begins searching for something to worry about, because worry has become familiar, the addiction nobody talks about. Can anxiety become addictive? Not in the way drugs are, but in a different, more subtle way. Your brain believes worrying helps you prepare. Every time you imagine every possible disaster, your mind tells itself, now we're ready. But are you? Think about all the things you've worried about during your life. How many actually happened exactly as you imagined? Probably very few. Yet the brain keeps repeating the habit because it mistakes worrying for problem solving. But worry rarely solves problems. It rehearses pain over and over and over again. The body listens to every thought. Imagine holding a lemon in your hand. Picture its bright yellow skin. Now, cut it open. Watch the juice drip slowly. Bring one slice toward your mouth. Bite into it. Can you feel it? Did your mouth begin producing saliva? There was no lemon, only imagination. Yet your body responded. Now imagine what happens when you repeatedly imagine failure, rejection, loss, embarrassment. Every day, your nervous system listens, your heart listens, your muscles listen, your immune system listens, your body believes the stories your mind repeats. The cost of constant vigilance. Imagine a soldier standing guard 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never sleeping, never resting, always watching for danger. Eventually, even the strongest soldier would collapse. Yet many people ask their nervous system to do exactly that. They expect themselves to remain constantly alert, always prepared, always worried, always scanning for problems. No machine can operate like this forever. Neither can the human brain. This is why chronic anxiety often feels exhausting. Not because you're doing too much physically, because your brain is working every second, trying to protect you from futures that don't exist. Why calm feels difficult. Have you ever noticed something strange? You finally finish a stressful project. Everything is okay. Life becomes peaceful. And then your mind suddenly finds something new to worry about. This happens because the brain isn't always searching for happiness. It's searching for certainty. If uncertainty remains, the brain keeps scanning. It's like a security guard walking through an empty building, even if nothing is wrong. He keeps checking every room, not because danger exists, because that's his job. Your brain does the same. Understanding this changes everything. You stop asking, "Why can't I stop worrying?" and begin asking, "What is my brain trying to protect me from?" Compassion replaces frustration. Curiosity replaces judgment. Healing begins, returning to the present. So, how do you quiet a brain that refuses to stop scanning for danger? You don't fight it, you anchor it. Notice your breathing. Feel your feet touching the ground. Listen to the sounds around you. Notice the weight of your body, the temperature of the air, the rhythm of your heartbeat. Why does this help? Because your brain cannot fully live in the present and in an imagined catastrophe. At the same time, presence interrupts prediction. It gently reminds your nervous system, "We're here. We're safe. Nothing is attacking us right now." That message, repeated often enough, begins calming the alarm. Anxiety is not your identity. Perhaps the most important truth in this chapter is this: you are not your anxiety. You are the awareness, watching anxiety happen. There is a profound difference. The storm is not the sky. The waves are not the ocean. Thoughts are not the thinker. Feelings are not the person experiencing them. Anxiety is something your brain creates. It is not who you are. And once you understand that, the chains begin to loosen. Transition to Chapter 6. Fear creates stories. Anxiety keeps those stories alive. But what happens when fear stays with you for months or even years? Can it actually change your brain? The answer may surprise you. In the next chapter, we'll explore one of the most incredible discoveries in modern neuroscience. The brain is not fixed. It is constantly changing. And that means the same brain that learned fear can also learn courage. Chapter 6. Your second brain. Why your body feels fear before you do. There is a strange moment that almost everyone has experienced. You're about to step onto a stage or answer an unexpected phone call, or receive a message that begins with the words, "We need to talk." Before your mind has time to understand what's happening, your heart is already racing. Your hands begin to sweat, your stomach tightens, your breathing becomes shallow. You haven't consciously decided to be afraid, yet your body is already acting as if danger has arrived. Why? Because your body often detects fear before your conscious mind does. This isn't a flaw. It's one of the oldest survival systems ever created. Long before human beings developed language, before we built cities, before we learned mathematics or philosophy, our ancestors survived because their bodies reacted instantly. Waiting to think could mean death. Imagine walking through tall grass thousands of years ago. You hear a sudden rustle. Your body jumps backward before you even identify the sound. Only afterward do you realize it was just the wind. Or perhaps it wasn't. Maybe it was a predator. In either case, your nervous system made the same decision. Move first, analyze later. That ancient survival mechanism still exists inside you today. Only now, the lion has changed. Today, your predator might be an interview, a difficult conversation, a financial problem, an email from your boss, a crowded room full of strangers. The body responds almost exactly the same way. Your brain cannot always distinguish between physical danger and emotional danger. To your nervous system, rejection can feel like attack. Embarrassment can feel like death. Failure can feel like exile. And for most of human history, social rejection actually could threaten survival. Humans evolved in tribes. Being cast out often meant starvation, exposure, or death. So your brain learned something powerful. Stay accepted, avoid rejection, protect your place in the group. Thousands of years later, that ancient programming still influences your daily life. Scientists call the communication network between your brain and body the autonomic nervous system. It works automatically. You don't consciously decide to digest food. You don't consciously regulate your heartbeat. You don't manually control your pupils. Your nervous system handles these tasks every second of your life. It also controls your stress response. This system has two major modes. The first is called the sympathetic nervous system. Think of it as your emergency mode. The moment your brain senses danger, this system activates. Your heart pumps faster. Blood rushes toward your muscles. Your pupils widen. Your liver releases stored glucose for instant energy. Your digestion slows because eating is no longer important. Every resource shifts toward one goal: survival. The second system is the parasympathetic nervous system. This is your recovery mode. It slows the heartbeat, deepens breathing, restores digestion, repairs tissues, strengthens the immune system. It reminds your body you are safe now. Health depends on these two systems working together. The problem isn't stress itself. The problem is staying trapped inside emergency mode. Imagine driving a car. The accelerator helps you move. The brakes help you stop. Both are necessary. Now imagine driving with your foot permanently pressing the accelerator. Soon, the engine overheats, fuel disappears, parts wear out. Eventually, something breaks. This is what chronic anxiety does to the body. It keeps the accelerator pressed all day, even while sitting at a desk, watching television, scrolling through your phone, trying to fall asleep. Your nervous system doesn't receive the signal that the danger has passed. It remains on high alert, hour after hour, day after day, month after month. Over time, this constant activation begins affecting nearly every organ in your body. Sleep becomes lighter, memory weakens, concentration declines. Digestion becomes irregular, muscles remain tense, even your immune system becomes less effective. The body isn't malfunctioning. It's simply following instructions. It believes you're still in danger. One of the most remarkable discoveries in neuroscience is that the body doesn't just respond to the brain, the body also influences the brain. This relationship works in both directions. When you're anxious, your breathing becomes quick and shallow. But here's the fascinating part. Changing your breathing can also change your emotional state. Slow breathing tells the brain the emergency is over. A slower heartbeat sends the same message. Relaxed muscles communicate safety. Even your facial expression affects emotional processing. Your body is constantly talking to your brain. The question is, what message is it sending? This is why simple practices like deep breathing, mindful walking, stretching, or meditation aren't merely relaxation techniques. They are biological signals. Every slow breath tells your nervous system you don't need to fight anymore. Every relaxed shoulder says you can let go. Every calm exhale becomes evidence that you're safe. Little by little, your body begins believing it. And when your body believes it, your brain follows. Perhaps the greatest mistake we make is believing that fear lives only in our thoughts. It doesn't. Fear lives in your heartbeat, your muscles, your breathing, your posture, your nervous system. To understand fear completely, you must learn to listen not only to your mind, but also to your body. Because sometimes the fastest way to calm your thoughts is to first calm the body that carries them. Chapter 7. The Invisible Filter. Why your brain doesn't see reality. Have you ever noticed that two people can live through the exact same experience, yet walk away with completely different conclusions? One person loses a job and thinks, "This is the end of my career." Another loses the same job and says, "Maybe this is the opportunity I've been waiting for." One person speaks in front of an audience and remembers every small mistake. Another remembers the applause. One walks into a room full of strangers and sees judgment everywhere. The other sees possibility. The question is, who's seeing reality? Surprisingly, maybe neither, because your brain doesn't experience reality exactly as it is. It experiences reality as it predicts it to be, and those predictions quietly shape almost every moment of your life. Imagine wearing a pair of tinted glasses. If the lenses are blue, everything appears slightly blue. After a few minutes, you stop noticing the glasses. You simply assume that's what the world looks like. Your brain works the same way, except instead of colored lenses, it wears beliefs. Beliefs about yourself, beliefs about other people, beliefs about the future. These beliefs become invisible filters. You don't notice them anymore, but they influence everything you see. Neuroscientists estimate that your brain receives millions of pieces of sensory information every single second. The color of the walls, the temperature of the air, every sound around you, every movement in your peripheral vision, the feeling of your clothes against your skin, the position of every muscle in your body, the pressure beneath your feet. If your conscious mind had to process all of that, you wouldn't survive a single minute. So the brain performs an extraordinary task. It filters. It decides what deserves attention and what can safely be ignored. Without this filtering system, life would become overwhelming. But there's one problem. The brain doesn't always filter based on truth. It filters based on expectation. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. Once your brain believes something, it begins searching for evidence that supports it. If you believe people don't like you, your brain notices every awkward silence, every delayed text message, every neutral facial expression. It quietly ignores all the smiles, the compliments, the invitations, because those don't match the prediction. The opposite is also true. If you believe people enjoy your company, your brain notices warmth, kindness, laughter, connection. The world hasn't changed. Your filter has. Think about buying a new car. Maybe you've never noticed that particular model before. Then suddenly, after purchasing it, you see it everywhere. On the highway, in parking lots, at traffic lights. Did thousands of identical cars suddenly appear overnight? Of course not. They were always there. Your brain simply decided they mattered. Fear works exactly the same way. Once your brain labels something as dangerous, it begins collecting evidence to prove itself right. Not because it's trying to hurt you, because it's trying to protect you. This explains why anxious people often feel surrounded by danger. Their brain has become incredibly efficient at detecting threats. It notices every possible problem, every worst-case scenario, every potential mistake, every uncertain outcome. The brain believes it's helping, but over time, this constant scanning creates exhaustion. It's like living with an alarm system that rings every few minutes. Eventually, even silence feels suspicious. There's another remarkable phenomenon. Your brain doesn't just predict the outside world, it predicts you. If you've repeatedly told yourself, "I'm terrible under pressure," "I'm socially awkward," "I always fail," your brain begins organizing your behavior around those expectations. Without realizing it, you hesitate, you overthink, you avoid opportunities, you interpret setbacks as proof that your belief was correct. The prediction creates the behavior, and the behavior strengthens the prediction. A loop is born. Scientists sometimes describe the brain as a prediction machine. Long before you're aware of what's happening, your brain is already guessing what comes next. Most of the time, this is incredibly useful. It allows you to catch a ball, finish someone's sentence, recognize a friend's face instantly, drive home without thinking about every turn. Prediction makes life efficient, but when prediction is fueled by fear, efficiency becomes limitation. You stop seeing what's possible. You begin seeing only what's familiar, even if what's familiar is anxiety. The beautiful news is this: filters can change. Every time you question an old belief, you weaken its grip. Every time you notice evidence that contradicts your fear, you teach your brain something new. Maybe people aren't judging you. Maybe that mistake wasn't a disaster. Maybe rejection wasn't the end. Maybe you've been looking through fearful lenses for so long, you forgot they were there. Changing your life doesn't always begin by changing the world around you. Sometimes it begins by cleaning the lens through which you see it. Because when the filter changes, reality begins to look very different. And suddenly, opportunities appear where fear once lived. Hope appears where certainty of failure once existed. And courage quietly takes the place of doubt. In the next chapter, we'll explore one of the brain's greatest superpowers, neuroplasticity, and discover how your mind can literally rewire itself, proving that no matter how deeply fear has shaped your life, your brain is never finished changing. Chapter 8. Rewriting Fear. The brain that never stops changing. What if everything you believe about your brain is wrong? What if your personality, your confidence, even your fears are not permanent? For centuries, people believed the brain was fixed. They thought that once you reached adulthood, your mind became like stone. Its pathways were set, its habits were permanent, its fears were forever. But modern neuroscience has revealed something extraordinary. Your brain is alive, not just biologically, but structurally. Every day, every experience, every thought, every decision leaves a mark. Your brain is constantly rebuilding itself. Scientists call this remarkable ability neuroplasticity, and it may be the most hopeful discovery ever made about the human mind. Imagine walking across an empty field. The first time, there is no path. You push through tall grass. Each step takes effort. The second time, the journey is slightly easier. The grass has begun to bend. After walking the same route for weeks, a visible trail appears. Months later, the trail has become a road. Your brain works in exactly the same way. Every thought travels along a network of neurons. The more often you think the same thought, the stronger that pathway becomes. Every fearful reaction strengthens one road. Every confident response strengthens another. Your brain doesn't ask whether the thought is helpful. It simply asks one question: How often is this pathway being used? The answer determines which roads become highways. This explains why fear can become automatic. Imagine someone who constantly thinks, something bad is about to happen. At first, it's only an occasional thought. Then it becomes daily. Soon, the brain stops treating it like an opinion. It treats it like a fact. The fearful pathway grows wider, stronger, faster. Eventually, the brain reaches that conclusion almost instantly. Not because it's true, because it's familiar. The brain loves familiarity, even when familiarity creates suffering. Now imagine something different. Instead of avoiding every difficult situation, you begin facing them, one small step at a time. The first conversation feels terrifying. The second, slightly easier. The fifth, manageable. The 10th, almost natural. What happened? The old pathway wasn't erased overnight. A new pathway simply became stronger. Every courageous action told your brain, this is another option. Little by little, the brain began choosing that option more often. One of the most famous principles in neuroscience says, neurons that fire together wire together. Every repeated experience strengthens the connection between those neurons. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. At first, every movement requires concentration. Balance feels impossible. Your muscles hesitate. Your brain struggles to coordinate everything. But after enough repetition, you stop thinking. The skill becomes automatic. Fear works the same way. So does courage. Confidence isn't magic. It's practiced wiring. This is why reading about confidence isn't enough. Understanding fear intellectually doesn't automatically remove it. Knowledge opens the door. Experience rewires the brain. You cannot think your way into courage. Eventually, you must act. Action is the language your nervous system understands best. Every time you survive something you feared, your brain quietly updates its map of reality. It says, perhaps this wasn't as dangerous as I predicted. That single realization weakens fear. Psychologists often describe fear as a false teacher. It repeats the same lesson. Avoid. Escape. Stay safe. The problem is, avoidance teaches the brain the wrong message. Imagine someone who fears elevators. They avoid elevators for years. Each time they choose the stairs, their anxiety disappears. The brain notices this. It concludes, excellent decision. Avoiding elevators kept us alive. The fear grows even stronger. The avoidance becomes permanent. But something remarkable happens when that person finally rides the elevator. Nothing terrible occurs. The prediction fails. The brain receives new evidence. It begins learning something completely different. Maybe elevators aren't dangerous after all. Every peaceful ride weakens the old fear. Not instantly, but steadily. This is one of the greatest truths about your mind. Your brain believes evidence, not wishes. You cannot simply tell yourself, I'm fearless, while avoiding everything that scares you. Your brain won't believe the words, but it will believe your actions. When you repeatedly do difficult things, you hand your brain undeniable proof. Look, you survived. We're stronger than we thought. Action becomes evidence. Evidence becomes belief. Belief becomes identity. One day, you stop saying, I'm trying to become brave. Instead, you realize, maybe I already am. This process never truly ends. Even now, as you listen to these words, your brain is changing. New connections are forming, old ones are weakening. The person you become tomorrow is being shaped today, not by one dramatic moment, but by hundreds of tiny choices, repeated consistently. Every time you choose courage over avoidance, curiosity over certainty, growth over comfort, you are quietly redesigning your own mind. And perhaps the most beautiful part of all, your brain doesn't care how old you are. It only cares whether you're willing to keep learning. In the next chapter, we'll explore one of the brain's most mysterious abilities, how your expectations quietly shape your reality, and why the stories you repeatedly tell yourself often become the life you eventually live. Chapter 9. The mind becomes what it repeats. How your thoughts become your reality. Close your eyes for just a moment. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. Before your feet even touch the floor, a voice inside your head begins speaking. Today is going to be difficult. You're already behind. You're not ready. People are better than you. Don't expect too much. Now imagine hearing those same words every morning for a year, for 10 years, for 20 years. Would they eventually begin to feel true? Most people believe their thoughts simply describe reality, but neuroscience tells us something astonishing. Your thoughts don't just describe your world. They help create it, not through magic, not through wishful thinking, but through repetition, because the brain becomes what it practices. Think about learning a new language. At first, every word feels unfamiliar. Every sentence requires effort. You hesitate. You make mistakes. But with enough repetition, the strange becomes familiar. The difficult becomes automatic. One day, you realize you're no longer translating. You're simply thinking in that language. Your inner dialogue works exactly the same way. Every sentence you repeat to yourself becomes mental practice, whether it's helpful or harmful. Your brain doesn't judge the message. It only notices the repetition. If you repeatedly tell yourself, "I'm not confident," your brain begins searching for proof. If you constantly think, "People always reject me," your attention quietly filters for rejection. Eventually, these thoughts stop feeling like opinions. They become identity. Identity is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. People don't simply act based on goals. They act based on who they believe they are. Someone who says, "I'm trying to quit smoking," is still identifying as a smoker. Someone who says, "I don't smoke anymore," has begun changing their identity. The behavior follows. The same principle applies to fear. If you constantly describe yourself as an anxious person, your brain works hard to remain consistent with that identity. Not because it wants you to suffer, because consistency feels safe. The brain prefers a familiar identity, even if that identity creates pain. This is why lasting transformation rarely begins with changing your circumstances. It begins with changing the story you tell yourself. Every human being carries an invisible narrator. That narrator explains everything. Why you failed, why you succeeded, why people treat you the way they do, why your future will or won't be different. The frightening part is, most people never question that narrator. They assume it's telling the truth, but often, it's simply repeating old programming, words spoken by parents, teachers, bullies, past relationships, old disappointments. The voice feels like your own, yet much of it was borrowed. Fortunately, what was learned can be relearned. Researchers studying the brain have discovered something fascinating. Repeated positive experiences create stronger emotional memories than brief positive moments, but only if you allow yourself to notice them. Imagine receiving 10 compliments, then hearing one criticism. Which one stays with you? For many people, the criticism, not because it's more important, because the brain naturally gives greater attention to potential threats. Psychologists call this the negativity bias. It helped our ancestors survive. Ignoring danger was costly. Ignoring beauty wasn't. But in today's world, this ancient survival mechanism often traps us inside unnecessary suffering. We replay failures. We overlook victories. We remember embarrassment. We forget courage. So how do we change this? Not by pretending everything is wonderful, not by denying pain, but by consciously choosing what deserves repetition. Think about a musician. They don't practice the entire song equally. They repeat the difficult section again and again and again until excellence becomes automatic. You can train your mind the same way. Repeat gratitude. Repeat courage. Repeat moments of resilience. Repeat evidence that you're growing. Every repetition strengthens a new pathway. Slowly, the mind begins expecting possibility instead of failure. Habits are simply repeated decisions that no longer require conscious effort. At first, you choose the habit. Eventually, the habit begins choosing you. This is true whether the habit is fear or confidence, complaining or gratitude, avoidance or courage. Your brain is always asking, what should I automate next? The answer depends entirely on what you practice. Practice panic, and panic becomes familiar. Practice calm, and calm becomes easier to access. practice believing in yourself, and eventually, belief no longer feels forced. It feels natural. There is a powerful question that few people ask themselves. If I repeated today's thoughts every day for the next 10 years, who would I become? That question changes everything, because every thought is casting a vote, not for your mood, but for your future identity. You're never just thinking, you're rehearsing fear, or rehearsing freedom, rehearsing limitation, or rehearsing possibility. One thought may seem insignificant, but thousands of repeated thoughts become the architecture of a life. Perhaps you've spent years practicing self-doubt. If so, be patient with yourself. No one walks into a gym expecting to become strong in a single afternoon. The mind grows the same way. One repetition, one decision, one conversation with yourself at a time. Your future personality isn't hidden somewhere waiting to be discovered. It's being built every single day by what you repeatedly choose to believe. Chapter 10. The Architect of Your Mind. The Story You Choose to Live. There is a story often told about an old sculptor. One day, someone watched him chisel away at an enormous block of marble. Hour after hour, day after day, pieces of stone fell to the ground. Finally, a magnificent statue emerged. A young apprentice asked, "How did you know the statue was inside the stone?" The sculptor smiled and replied, "It was always there. I simply removed everything that wasn't." Perhaps your mind works the same way. Perhaps the confident, calm, resilient version of you has never been missing. Perhaps it has simply been hidden beneath years of fear, years of doubt, years of stories you never consciously chose to believe. Throughout this audiobook, we haven't been trying to create a new mind. We've been uncovering the one that was always capable of growth. Think back to where this journey began. Fear seemed like an enemy, an obstacle, something to defeat, but now you know something different. Fear is not your enemy. It is one of the oldest survival systems ever created. It has protected human beings for hundreds of thousands of years. Without fear, our ancestors would never have survived. The problem isn't that fear exists. The problem is that your ancient brain still responds to modern challenges as though they were life-threatening dangers. A difficult conversation feels like exile. Public speaking feels like standing before predators. Failure feels like the end of survival. Your brain isn't trying to sabotage you, it's trying to protect you. The only problem is that it hasn't realized the world has changed. Along the way, you've discovered that your brain is constantly making predictions. It fills in missing information. It filters reality. It remembers threats more easily than victories. It repeats familiar patterns because familiarity feels safe. And perhaps most importantly, it changes. Every experience rewires it. Every habit reshapes it. Every courageous decision leaves a mark. This means something extraordinary. You are not trapped inside yesterday's brain. Even now, as these words enter your mind, new neural connections are forming. The brain you have tomorrow will not be identical to the brain you had yesterday. The question is no longer, can I change? The question is, what am I teaching my brain today? Consider the people you admire most, those who appear calm under pressure, those who inspire others, those who remain hopeful during uncertainty, those who seem impossible to break. It's tempting to believe they were born different, but often they simply practiced different habits. They trained different thoughts. They responded differently to fear. Courage was not their starting point. It became their routine. The same brain that learned anxiety can learn resilience. The same mind that practiced doubt can practice confidence. The same nervous system that learned panic can learn peace. Your brain doesn't care about your past nearly as much as it cares about your repetition. What you practice, you become. There will still be difficult days, moments when fear returns, moments when old habits, familiar stories. That doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're human. Growth has never been a straight line. Even forests experience storms. Even oceans have waves. Even the strongest minds have moments of uncertainty. The difference is this: you now recognize those moments for what they are, temporary. A thought is not a command. An emotion is not a prophecy. Fear is not your identity. It is simply information, and information can be questioned. Imagine yourself 5 years from now, not because life became perfect, but because you became different. You no longer believe every fearful thought. You pause before reacting. You breathe before assuming the worst. You choose curiosity instead of panic, action instead of avoidance, presence instead of overthinking. The outside world may still be unpredictable, but your relationship with it has changed, and that changes everything, because peace is not the absence of uncertainty. Peace is the ability to remain steady within it. Remember something remarkable. Every morning, your brain wakes up ready to learn. It doesn't ask your age. It doesn't ask how many mistakes you've made. It doesn't ask how long you've been afraid. It simply waits for instructions. Those instructions come from your attention, your habits, your actions, your beliefs. Every single day, you are programming the most powerful machine you will ever own. Most people do it unconsciously. Beginning today, you can do it deliberately. As this journey comes to an end, I want to leave you with one final thought. You are not the voice that tells you you're not enough. You are the awareness that hears that voice. You are not your fear. You are the one capable of facing it. You are not your past. You are the author of what comes next. The human brain is one of the greatest creations in nature. It can imagine worlds that don't exist. It can solve impossible problems. It can heal, adapt, learn, love, create, and most importantly, it can transform itself. So as you close this audiobook and return to your life, don't ask whether you're capable of changing. Ask yourself a different question. What kind of mind will I build from this day forward? Because every thought is a brick. Every habit is a blueprint. Every courageous decision is another step toward the person you're becoming. Your brain has been writing your story since the day you were born. But from this moment on, the pen is in your hands. If you've stayed with me until this moment, you've already taken an important step. Understanding how the mind works is more than gaining knowledge. It's beginning a lifelong journey of self-awareness. Fear is not your enemy. It's a system your brain developed to protect you. But when you understand that system, you no longer have to be controlled by it. You can recognize it, question it, and choose a different response. Remember, lasting change doesn't happen overnight. It happens through small, consistent actions, repeated day after day. Every time you pause instead of panic, every time you choose courage over comfort, every time you challenge an irrational fear, you're literally reshaping your brain. The more you practice, the stronger your confidence becomes, the calmer your mind grows, and the freer your life becomes. So as you leave this audiobook, I want you to carry one simple thought with you. Your brain creates fear, but your mind has the power to overcome it. If this audiobook helped you see yourself in a new way, I encourage you to keep learning, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep growing. The greatest transformation isn't becoming someone else. It's discovering the strength that has always been within you. Thank you again for spending this time with me. I truly appreciate your attention, your curiosity, and your willingness to invest in your own growth. Until next time, take care of your mind, trust your journey, and never stop becoming the best version of yourself. Thank you, and goodbye.